What's up, guys? It's your boy Vance, aka Gain City, and I'm back with another video. And today we're gonna be talking about emotions, man. Don't let your emotions hit you out of, your way to, your path to success, because it will if you allow it to. You have to be able to, bottle up your emotions and use your brain. Use that mindset. Use that never stay satisfied mentality to keep going, whether, the stuff looks like you're going to fail or not, just like I said, use it as a learning thing. It's not the end of your story at all. It's a learning, it's a learning, it's a learning situation. You learn from it and then you try again. You feel me? Like you make plans, you see, all right, how did I fail? And like I said, you make a plan and then you execute. That plan fails, you make a new plan and then execute. Like it's a saying, it's repeat, 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 repeat. It's all about repetition. That's what anything in life. And it's a lot of sayings out there that a lot of average people have came up with, and people kind of just took it like, oh yeah, that's a fact. And most of them are not a fact at all. Like the whole, you have to have a balance. I know y'all hear that all the time. Oh, you gotta have a balance. No, you don't. If you going after something big, there is no balance. You just do. And everybody's like, oh, that's harsh. That's harsh. Well, that's why you're not going to succeed. If you think something that's, that's to be legendary, is going to be easy, something is wrong with you. You have to rethink that, because it's not true. There is no balance. You work, you work, you work, and then you get rewarded. And then even then, you still work, you work, you work. If that's scaring you right now, then you need to rethink your why, because your why ain't big enough. Your why should be the reason why you keep going. Your why should be the reason why. And it should not be no generic thing. It shouldn't be something that can be really honestly achievable, in my opinion. If you want something long term, you kind of have to have a why that's kind of, I don't want to say impossible, but really, really hard to achieve, Because if it's like, oh, like I always tell people, if you're going after something great and you're like, oh, material stuff, be like, oh, I want this car or whatever. Okay, then you do all of this stuff, you get that car, then what? 9 out of 10, you're going to stop, because you got what you wanted. That's when people get satisfied. That's when most average people, they get satisfied. It has to be something that's greater than all of that. Like my why is I want to help everybody on this planet. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen, but I'm going to die trying. I'm going to keep going at it. I'm going to keep helping people. You feel me? Every time that I, make videos, and, whether it gets low views, high, it does not matter. At the end of the day, I know deep down that I just helped somebody that day. Somebody that day might have needed this message. That's all that matters to me. Saving people's lives, helping people in their relationships, helping people, in their business, like helping people succeed is what I want. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. I love seeing people win. I don't like seeing people satisfied, but I do love seeing people win. It's like when you get up there, keep going. It's not the end. And don't make it the end. Don't get, like I said, don't get satisfied. Keep going. Never say satisfied. It means a lot, man. And it's gonna be a while before it's more, like out there. But just know, man, never stay satisfied is going to be a big reason why you succeed. You might not see it right now, but the more you really think about it, and that's not, if you can't sit with yourself in complete silence, and just think, you can't just be with yourself, complete silence, like I said, just think, you got bigger problems, man. You got to be able to, like I said, be one with yourself, whether, you're around people or not, It's that, when people say, oh, you're, when you're by yourself, you don't got no friends, you're lonely. Okay, cool. This is cool, because they're going to do things that they're not doing. They're too busy, chasing everybody else and, being a follower and, going to the club or whatever they're doing. But bull crapping, they're not doing nothing productive. They don't have that, most of them kind of have some insecurities too, because they can't even be by themselves. They can't be alone with themselves. They got to be on their phone, or they got to do this. Be one with yourself. Really think hard, or look in the mirror and just be like, what the heck do I want to do in life? And put together a plan and then execute. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and just be like, oh, yeah, you're gonna make it. Nah, you gotta prove it. You gotta put together an action. Put together a plan and take action on it. I mean, it's no sugarcoating nothing. This world is not gonna hand stuff to you. And you don't want nothing handed to you. You want to work for your stuff. You want it to be earned, because then it means that much more once you reach that goal. And like I said, goals are meant to be adjustable. Goals aren't the end. You know, you set a goal, bam, you beat it. All right, you put another goal. You beat that goal, all right, you put another goal. You know, it's repetition. You just keep going. It's that simple, man. And like I said, you have to keep your emotions out of it, man. Your emotions will get the best of you every single time if you allow it to, for the worse. You know, it's like one of them things where you have to kind of be, I think I said it in one of my other videos, but when it comes to like your goals, obviously as long as everybody's, you know, good and all that, but you gotta kind of be selfish with your goals, man. You gotta be making sure that your goals are being met. And like I said, average people gonna tell you all day, like, oh no, that's selfish. No, you're going after what the heck you want to do. You know, you actually care about your life. You're taking it seriously. They're not. And that's on them. They're gonna get hit with that bill of regret later on. But you're knocking it out early, you know, getting a head start and making sure your job, you know, the work and the, like I said, the success of the goals, all the dreams you want gets achieved. But the only one that can do it is you. You know, you always gonna hear me say that in my videos, man. The only one that can do it is you. You feel me? Nobody else can do the work for you. You have to do the work. And like I said, you don't want anybody to do the work for you. You kind of want to, like I said, you want to do the work, you know, yourself. It just means that much more. You know, when you can look back and say, dang, I did that, you know, but then keep going. You know, don't be like, oh, I did that, and then get satisfied and, you know, start, I don't know, flexing or whatever. Like, no, you know, because then now you messing up. You know, now you're going to get past, you know, your competition's going to pass you because you satisfied. You looking around like, oh, I made it. You ain't make nothing. You feel me? Even when you're at the top, man, keep going, you know, or be a leader in the sense of teaching people. Either way, be productive. You know, don't just be like, all right, I'm at the top, I'm chilling, I'm just living. You know, like, nah, you want to, you know, it's good to still learn or teach others. You know, that's typically what people do when they retire. What do? They go and teach people what they've done. You know, the greats. You know, it's good to keep, like I said, going, keep striving towards, you know, greatness, even beyond greatness. You know, like I say, even if you're a legendary, you know, shoot, be another legendary. I don't know, like, just keep going, man. You know, it's something that, like, I remember one of Kobe's one of his quotes where he was like, well, I don't know if it was a quote, but one of his audios, he was pretty much saying that, like, you know, during the season and stuff, he would see all these players, you know, partying and, you know, having vacations and all that, and he was like, I didn't do that, you know, and I'm the same way. What's the point? What is there to be celebrating for? The job's not done, you know. I don't want to, and he also said this too, but you don't want to retire and look back and say, dang, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. No, you get the job done. You work, you know, you work hard until, you know, you retire or something. And I remember I told you, even then, you still, you know, you teach people or you become like I said, a mentor, you know. But yeah, man, the job is never going to be over. You know, it's something that you should always keep pushing yourself. You know, whether you're old or not, it does not matter. You're always coachable. You know, you're always able to, like I said, get better, progress, and whatever the heck you're trying to do. You can always be, you know, you can always learn. Always can be coachable. But like I said, it's up to you. You know, and like I said, with emotions, like I know, like for trading, because I also trade as well. Your emotions can mess you up. You know, you have to be able to control your mind. You know, you can't let your mind control you. You know, you can't have FOMO, you know, fear of missing out. You can't, you know, try to, you know, revenge trade. You can't do that. You know, you have to control your mindset. Same thing with bodybuilding. You know, you can't lift with your ego. You know, everybody think, oh, when I'm lifting heavy, they think I'm lifting my ego. Y'all don't realize, man, I've been doing this for a long time too. I use mind and muscle connection. So when y'all see me lifting heavy and all that stuff, I'm still using mind and muscle connection. I do not care about what y'all think. I don't care about what the gym think, because I ain't doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. That's why half the time when I'm lifting heavy and stuff, I don't even remember to record. Like I've never recorded my max squat, which is 700. I've never recorded, because what's the point? I know I did it. I know the people that was there, they saw me do it. That's all that matters. I don't care what y'all think, you know, because I'm not doing it for y'all. I'm doing it for me. You know, on that aspect, you know, bodybuilding, working out, you know, I'm doing that for me, building my mind, building my body, you know, that discipline, stuff like that. But when it comes to, like, you know, helping y'all win, helping y'all succeed, oh yeah, I want y'all to win, you know, but it takes you to do that, you know. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, you can do it, and, you know, be like, just, you know, think about it. And because thinking is not doing. You have to do the work. You have to put together a plan and execute. You know, I always put on there, you know, no action, no results. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, results don't lie, man. Results do not lie. That's why I always tell people, when you're doing something, you think that it's not working, measure yourself. You know, measure where you were when you started and where you're at now. I'm pretty sure you moved. I'm pretty sure you progressed, because you're already doing what most people aren't doing, which is trying, which is doing. You know, average people make all these excuses because excuses sound best to who makes them, you know, who says them. And that's on them. Let them deal with that. But us, we got work to do. And we're going to, like I said, keep going. Like I said, keep grinding. When nobody's watching, with whether people watching or not, who cares? Just keep going, man. Knock it out. And remember, never stay satisfied. All right, y'all, see you on the next video.